Joe Smith joins me now. He's the president and CEO of Neo Exchange. Joe, welcome.
Great to be with you.
So, just the emergence of SPACs, special purpose
acquisition corporations.
Acquisition corporations, thank you. Tell me what a SPAC is and give me an example of one that is representative of a success that constituted a positive investor experience.
Yeah. Well, what is a SPAC in a nutshell? It's a vehicle where a group of people, typically experts in an industry with a strong combination of all the right managerial skills to have a great vision, a great strategy, know what it takes to run a company, come together and say to investors, you can invest with us, you can make an investment in this vehicle, in this SPAC, and we're gonna put that money aside. That money is in fact very well protected. The regulators put in a very strong structure to ensure that those investors would be protected. And if you do that, we are going to start to scan and do due diligence to identify a company that we could acquire, a company that has tremendous potential and that is in need of capital, in need of leadership maybe, in need of certain skills that they don't have. And if you look at the history of SPACs, it was created in the US quite a little while back, and they had some good successes. Canada or the TSX tried to replicate it. It has not been very successful, and there's been a lot of negative noise about it. And it then started again with Neo in the cannabis space. And we've had some very interesting developments in that space now. We are at our 5th SPAC, but the first two led already to results. So the qualifying transaction came out of it, and one led to the company Columbia Care, which is probably one of the big leader MSOs, multi-state operators in the US that resulted out of that SPAC and out of the qualifying transaction, and they ended with great capital to fuel their growth and great support to enable them to go further. The second one led to a company called Air, same story, same strategy, same vision, and again, in their case, they brought 5 companies together, and then we have other ones that are running, and yesterday, believe it or not, we listed the biggest SPAC ever in Canadian history, with a total raise of $575 million US, sponsored or supported by Subversive Capital, and Canaccord Genuity was facilitating it, was doing acting as a banker for it. So I think we see this developing. More interestingly, we see it working. I think this is reaffirming that the SPAC is a great vehicle. As I always say, it's a great vehicle at the right time in the right industry. And I think that the cannabis industry, being an emerging industry where there's a lot of different initiatives, local initiatives, people setting up companies, some of them already making revenue, they get stuck. Like, how do we take this to the next level? How do we grow it? And they don't really have any solutions. Access to financing is difficult or can be extremely expensive. And then the SPAC suddenly is there, is trying to identify them, and then gives them that incredible injection in capital. And I think that it works. I think it's reaffirming that the SPAC is a good vehicle. It's affirming that you have to do that at the right moment. This last listing is going to create even more visibility around this. And I think we're going to see it in other industries also. It's going to reemerge in other industries, but it has to be the right industries where there are gems that are unable to grow, to develop, and that need support, and that can be identified by the experts that are behind a SPAC. So I think it's great. Don't use a SPAC in a very mature industry. I don't think you will find those gems that need that capital. You will probably have some established players that will identify them and buy them out. But this is a big development. And again, it's great to be the exchange that enabled that.
Yeah. So the capital was put together by Subversive and Canaccord Genuity specifically for the purpose of acquiring a cannabis company that already exists?
Yeah, their strategy is to acquire one or multiple companies that are already there. So the one example is one of the SPACs that led to a qualifying transaction where it was one single company that was involved, Columbia Care. Another one that was done by Mercer Park led to the acquisition of 5 companies that were then brought together to develop synergies. So it can be any combination of bringing together companies that have tremendous potential and that need that capital and that support to take them to the next level, or potentially need, being combined with each other, because then you create a strong entity that can really create value add. And that is really what a SPAC does.
Okay.
And you'll see it in other industries, I'm sure about that.
Sure. So the most important element for an investor considering a deployment of capital into a SPAC would be the ability of the management of the SPAC to identify suitable acquisitions that are going to accrete to a positive experience for investors. Okay,
Absolutely.
I understand them.
And the other element that is important and to keep in the back of your mind, that is that there are protection mechanisms in place. So this is not like here you get my money and you go and make something with it, and if it fails I lose my money. So there are protections mechanisms in place where what is it, 90% of those funds are put in escrow. So the investor, in fact, is not giving someone a blank check who then walks away with it. So he is being protected, and his risk is minimized. If there's nothing coming out of that SPAC, and the SPAC has a certain life duration, 2 years, can be extended to 3. But if nothing comes out of it, then at one moment they will have to stop, and the money goes back to the investors.
Fascinating. We'll have to look more into that and learn more about it. That's great, Jose. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.